Two sides that have experienced very different campaigns thus far. Minnesota back to full strength, look to continue their surge up the Western Conference and be at the very peak of the conversation. For Dallas, a shadow of their former selves, they would simply settle to be involved in positive discussions of any sort. From the National Soccer Hall of Fame and Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas, FC Dallas host Minnesota United. And a very warm welcome to our studios here at Allianz Field and the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota pregame show. Callum Williams here, as always, alongside former Gopher soccer star Kyndra de St. Aubin. Kyndra, before we focus on events ahead of us in Frisco, Texas, let's rewind the clock, shall we, and go back to the game here 2 weeks ago, Friday evening against Kansas City. Yeah,
I think everybody came in with a lot of energy, expecting the home opener at Allianz Field for 2020 to end in a different perspective. But instead, Sporting Kansas City, they came in here with a really good game plan. None of the goals that night were particularly beautiful. We had some deflections, we had an own goal, we had some chances there for Sporting Kansas City. They found a way to make Minnesota United suffer, and it was in the box. It was opportunities. Michael Boxall tracking back towards his own goal after a turnover in midfield. It's amazing to me, time and time again, whenever you watch any team lose possession of the ball in the midfield, the opposition goes the other way, and they made them pay. Sporting Kansas City with a beautiful finish there.
Minnesota United with victory here this evening, Kyndra, could go back up to second place.
Well, I mean, I think this Western Conference 2020, it's just so wonky right now. We don't know what's going on, who's going to end up where, and Sporting Kansas City is sitting at the top, but we saw them get absolutely crushed by the Houston Dynamo the other night. So it really is the league where anybody can beat anybody on any given night, and that is especially true in the Western Conference.
For FC Dallas, a season of question marks, no doubt, but that doesn't mean they don't have an answer or two, Kyndra.
Well, they do, and they've got to find a way to get the job done. They're 1-1-3 on the season. They did not participate in the MLS bubble down in Orlando. They were sent home due to the coronavirus, and instead they had to get back on track when MLS resumed. And you can see the record there. 6 points, 11th in the West, not in that bubble, but Andrasic is a huge piece to the puzzle. He was on fire before the shutdown. He scored a lot of goals. He had a little bit of an injury. They signed Frank O'Hara, and now he's back in the starting 11 here tonight.
Like you mentioned as well, Kyndra de St. Aubin, an intriguing and insufferable season perhaps so far for FC Dallas. No doubt there were question marks heading into the campaign after the MLS is Back tournament. Remember, they weren't allowed to play in the MLS is Back tournament due to several positive coronavirus tests. How will that affect them psychologically and mentally, knowing that they've missed a lot of football heading into this Phase 1 campaign?
Look, I think everybody is dealing with similar issues in the sense that not everybody was sent home, clearly, but everybody is dealing with the unknown. What are they going to have to deal with now? Who's going to show up? Who's going to be injured? Who's going to be fit? And look, they have a lot of new pieces. This is what, the fifth different starting 11, fifth different formation in the last 6 games. So I think that this is something that Luchi Gonzalez is still trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle. He's trying to figure out what is going to work. And from an attacking standpoint, they have not figured it out since returning to play. It's only 2 games. It's only a handful. You know, 2 against Nashville, 1 against Houston, but they've got to find a way to get on the board because their scoring is lacking, and that is not something they suffered with at the end of the 2019 regular season.
So with that on the mindset, let's take a look at tonight's starting 11 presented by Allianz. Minnesota United make 1 adjustment. Hassani Dotson drops out. In comes Robin Lod into the 3 behind Luis Amarilla, and operating just underneath Amarilla, Kyndra. Another big evening ahead for Kevin Molino.
Well, Kevin Molino back a little bit more in his true form centrally, sitting there underneath Luis Amarilla as a 10. And I think you and I have talked about several times, Luis Amarilla is better with Kevin Molino sitting underneath, with a true 10 underneath that can play make, that can combine, that he can make the runs off the shoulder. Kevin Molino is one of the best at making those cheeky little passes outside of the foot, finding the spaces. Robin Lod likes to tuck in. Ethan Finley needs to keep the width, in my opinion. That was lacking in the last match in the 4-3-3. They didn't have enough width. The outside backs didn't have an outlet. The central midfielders didn't have an outlet to relieve that pressure. Ethan Finley stayed a little bit wider. Kevin Molino play make with Amarilla, and Robin Lod just do your thing on the left-hand side. He can get to the end line, or he can tuck in and create space for Chase Gasper.
For FC Dallas, 4 adjustments. This the 5th different lineup in 6 Major League Soccer games. The majority of the adjustments coming in the front line. Pepe, Ondrasic and Pico. in the front three. Ryan Hollingshead back in the starting 11 at right back, alongside their leader in command, Kendra, Matt Hedges.
Well, and just the veteran of this club. I mean, he just surpassed the record for regular season appearances for FC Dallas. I believe it was 248. So even though they've had all these other moving pieces, all these other changes in the lineup, in the formations, Matt Hedges stands firm, and they need that in that center back position. Hollingshead, he's played 6 or 7 different positions in his career in MLS, so you can kind of move him around and feel good about what you're going to get. But Andresic up top, they need the goal scorer, and we talked about this, changing the front three, changing the formation. Once again, the pace on the outside with Pepe and Pico. Andresic will sit in the box. He's not going to move outside of that 18. He'll get the crosses, he'll get the services, he'll get the ball at his feet, but he's not going to drift outside of that 18.
Now, in this week's Park Dental pre-game interview in the week, we caught up with the head coach of Minnesota United, Adrian Heath, and here is what he had to say.
Well, I don't think it was certainly the result we wanted, but certainly not the result that we expected. As I said on the evening, I thought we were too passive in the first half. We just sort of meandered through the game. I thought second half we got a little bit closer to them. Our engagement line was a little bit higher up the field, and we had a little bit more response from the players. And I thought that contributed in a lot better performance in the second half. I don't think we did enough with our final third entries and got enough people in the box, and that's something that we've been working on. Well, if you look at them, they're traditionally very, very good at home. You know, obviously this time of year the weather's going to be extremely hot. We know that. They've got pace in wide areas. They've got a little bit of guile in the middle of the park, and they've got quality players. Obviously, since they've come back, it's been, you know, 2 draws and a loss. I think it's been so. It's not been ideal for them, but that'll make them even more determined to actually make sure that they get on that winning trail. So we know it's going to be tough. It always is at Dallas. I think Lucci's done a great job. They've got some great young players, and we'll have to play better than we did against Kansas to win the game. Well, we have to be ready, because that's what it's going to be like for us, and it's going to be like that for everybody. And as Kansas proved, you can come out and start the game quickly. So there's no excuses. Obviously, the challenges will be the weather. You know, you only need a delay, and then everything's running that much behind. But this time of year, we're hoping that everything's good, and I don't see it as a problem whatsoever.
Still plenty coming your way on the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota pre-game show. Next up, a look to the future and tackling an issue much larger than soccer.